A friend of mine in high school had real thick curly hair. After basketball practice, he'd take a shower, have to use this big brush to comb it. I'll never forget how long it took him, how he had to struggle to get that brush through it. We graduated from high school. About 10 years later, I ran into him at the mall and almost didn't recognize him. He no longer had thick curly hair, he had no hair. He was completely bald, and I was so shocked. If there was ever a person I thought would have hair the rest of his life, it would have been him. What happened? There was a gene in his DNA that had been locked up. The name of that gene was a 4-letter word, B-A-L-D. It had been passed down by his parents, by his relatives. That gene was programmed on a certain date to open up. It had been lying dormant there year after year, locked up in his genetic code. When the pre-programmed time came, the gene went to work. Its one purpose was to release the hair. I must say, it did a great job. In the same way, there are genes locked up in your genetic code right now, not from your physical relatives, but from your Heavenly Father. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, God not only knew you, but He put in you these destiny genes. The Apostle Paul talks about how God has prearranged us to live a blessed life. God has already pre-programmed in your DNA gifts, talents, favor, opportunity. Those genes are lying there dormant. You might not even know that they're in you. The scripture says you haven't seen, heard, or imagined the amazing things God has in your future. There are seeds of greatness locked up in your DNA. Ideas, inventions, books, songs, movies, businesses, contracts. When that pre-programmed time comes, set by the creator of the universe, nothing can stop it. People can't stop it. How you were raised can't stop it. A bad break, an addiction, poverty, lack, nothing can stop what the Most High God has already put in your DNA. Now don't just look at it in the natural. Hey, what you don't have? Well, Joel, I don't have the connections. I don't have the resources. My family, we've always had these addictions. No, you need to get ready. There are destiny genes about to open up in your life. Just like that bald gene went to work and released my friend's hair, what God has locked up in your DNA is about to kick in and thrust you to a new level. Suddenly you get promoted, a good break, the business takes off, your health improves, you break the addiction. You didn't see it coming. You didn't even know it was in you. What was that? A destiny gene. A man I know has worked in law enforcement for many years. He's a police officer. One day out of the blue, he had this idea about a small safety device. He's not an engineer, didn't have any formal training in that area. Nobody in his family has ever invented or designed anything. He thought this is a great idea, and he drew it out on the paper. He took that drawing to a company and had a prototype made of it. It worked so well, he decided to have it patented. He attended a national conference, showed it to this large company. These engineers looked at it, started scratching their heads. They said, this is amazing. How come we didn't think of this? That company bought his patent for $8 million. Later, he was awarded the Inventor of the Year in his category. He laughed and said, Joel, I never considered myself an inventor, but look what happened. That was a destiny seed locked up in his DNA. At the right time, it opened up. You may not see how you could ever get out of debt, ever get well, ever accomplish a dream. What you can't see is what's already in your DNA. What's already been pre-programmed to open up. Favor genes, idea genes, abundance genes, health genes. If you will keep honoring God, helping others, expecting good things at the right time, you'll step into your moment. Suddenly it will come to pass. For 35 years, there was a minister in me, but I didn't know it. This gene was lying dormant. It had been pre-programmed to open up at the right time. And when I worked behind the scenes here at Lakewood all those years doing the television production, many times my dad would try to get me up here to minister. I never thought I could do it. I would tell him, Daddy, I'm not a minister. That's just not in me. Not only that, I didn't have the desire. I liked being in the background. I knew that's where I was supposed to be at the time. I was fulfilled. But when my father had a heart attack in 1999 and died, suddenly I had the desire to step up and pastor the church. It wasn't like I was forced to do it. I wanted to do it. Overnight, that changed. What was that? A destiny gene opened up. It had been locked up in my DNA. When I was in high school, I never liked to write. In fact, writing was my least favorite subject. But in the last 11 years, I've written 8 books. There was an author lying dormant in me 35 years. Just like with me, there are destiny genes in your future that are going to open up and thrust you to a new level. You're going to discover talent that you didn't know you had. You're going to find yourself doing things you never thought you could do. Writing, inventing, singing, developing, exceeding your expectations, living bigger, more generous, more fulfilled than you ever imagined. Hey, you said, Joel, this sounds good, but I think you've got the wrong person. I'm not that talented. I never get any good breaks. I come from the wrong family. No, you come from the right family. Your heavenly Father, the one who spoke worlds into existence, the one who flung stars into space, He not only breathed life into you, He put a part of Himself in you. You have the DNA of Almighty God. He didn't create you to be average, to be mediocre, to endure, to get by. He created you to excel, to prosper, to set a new standard for your family, to leave your mark on this generation. You are not limited by your environment, by what family you come from, by what you did or didn't get. Your destiny genes will override every negative circumstance. You may have had some unfair situations, some disappointments. A young man told me one time how as a child he was passed from family to family, from foster home to foster home. Nobody wanted him. He said, Joel, I feel like my future has been cursed. But here's the beauty. Before anyone could put a curse on you, God put a blessing on you. Before you were born, before you showed up on planet Earth, God put in your DNA these destiny genes. God saw every disappointment, every unfair situation. As a child, he was passed from family to family, from foster home to foster home. Nobody wanted him. He said, Joel, I feel like my future has been cursed. But here's the beauty. Before anyone could put a curse on you, God put a blessing on you. Before you were born, before you showed up on planet Earth, God put in your DNA these destiny genes. God saw every disappointment, every unfair situation. He didn't say, oh, too bad. Look what they're going to go through. No use me putting anything good in their future. Just the opposite. God saw the bag break and said, you know what? I'm going to put something special right there. I'm going to make the enemy pay for bringing that trouble. God saw the unfair situation, the lack, the poverty. God said, I'm going to put a destiny gene of increase, of favor. I'm going to take them to a new level. Maybe you struggle with an addiction, something that's been passed down, been in your family for a long time. God saw that. He's already put a destiny gene of freedom, of wholeness, of breakthrough. Nothing you're facing is a surprise to God. You may have had a setback, but stay in faith. A comeback is on the way. It's just a matter of time for that destiny gene that's already in your DNA opens up and takes you to a new level. There was a little boy in Puerto Rico named Juan Rodriguez. He was born in extreme poverty. Growing up, his family hardly had enough to eat. The place they were living was no more than a shack. And at 7 years old, he was working in the sugarcane fields, plowing behind the oxen. It looked like that would be his lot in life, to live poor, defeated, limited by his environment. But even as a small boy, Juan knew he was made for more. He could feel his destiny calling, seeds of greatness on the inside. There was an old rundown golf course close to where they lived. Juan was so fascinated with golf, he made his own golf club out of a stick. He used bottle caps as balls Out in the sugarcane fields, he would play golf on his imaginary course. One day, a man noticed how interested he was in golf, got him a job at the course, making 35 cents an hour. When he was 21 years old, after being in the military for 2 years, he was hired as a full-time caddy there in Puerto Rico at a golf course. One day, a professional golfer came through and noticed how talented Juan was. He took him under his wing, started teaching him, training him. Today, Juan Rodriguez is better known as Chichi Rodriguez, the famous golfer. He went on to win 8 times on the PGA Tour. At one point, was named the Senior Player of the Year. Like Juan, you may be in an environment that feels limited. You don't think you could ever get out. What you can't see are the destiny genes that are put on the inside of you. You probably can't see right now a professional golfer, a successful business person, an entrepreneur, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. Those genes are lying dormant. But don't be fooled. At the right time, they will activate and take you where you could not go on your own. Ecclesiastes says, time and chance come together for every person. That means there are moments of favor, moments of increase, moments of blessing that are already in your future. Good breaks, the right people, ideas, healing. Against all odds, like Juan, you'll rise out of where you are and go places you never thought possible. That man that gave Juan a job making 35 cents an hour, he wasn't just being nice, he was a divine connection. He was put there by the Creator, a part of the destiny genes. The other man that took him under his wing and trained him, that wasn't just a lucky break, that was the hand of God, a moment of favor ordained before the foundation of time. Friends, God has already lined up your good breaks, the right people to help you. Those moments of favor have already been established. Quit worrying about how it's going to happen. That's not your job. Your job is to believe. All through the day, Lord, I want to thank you that you put destiny genes in me. Where I am is not where I'm staying. I may not see how it can happen, but God, I believe you have it all figured out. Listen, one touch of God's favor can put you 50 years down the road. One destiny gene opening up and you'll pay your house off. You'll break the addiction. You'll get healthy again. You'll accomplish those dreams. I can sense in my spirit some of those destiny genes that have already been pre-programmed to take you to the next level. They're about to be released in your life. You're about to see divine connections, people with opportunity and influence to help you go further. What you couldn't make happen on your own is going to suddenly fall into place. Like I did, you're going to discover gifts you didn't know you had. Ability to do things you never thought you could do. Starting your own company, running that business, building an orphanage, paying your house off. What happened? A destiny gene opened up. It was already in your DNA, but you stepped into your moment. Time and chance came together. You may feel like you're blessed. God's been good to you. But what God is about to do, when this next destiny gene opens up, it's going to far supersede anything you've seen in the past. God said in Exodus, I will do great things that I've never done before anywhere on earth. I will do an awesome thing for you. You know what's in your destiny? You know what's in your future? Already pre-programmed to come to pass. Something awesome, something that you've never seen. Don't believe those lies. You're stuck. You've reached your limits. Not talented enough, not smart enough. No, when your next destiny gene opens up, you're going to see new ability, new talent, new strength, new friendships, a new level of your destiny. You may wonder why, when you hear this, something comes alive on the inside. Your head may tell you it's never going to happen, but in your heart, something is saying, yes, this is for me. I know something amazing is in my future. You can feel excitement and expectancy. That's your spirit coming into agreement with what God put in you. That's your destiny genes beginning to activate. And if you will live with this expectancy, your faith can cause those genes to open up. In the natural, there's something called epigenetics. That word literally means on top of the gene. Researchers have found with certain genes, just because they've been passed down doesn't mean they have to be activated. They can be affected by our decisions, by our attitude, and by our environment. While we can't deactivate what color of hair we have or our size and shape, there are certain genes we can either turn on or turn off. Even though the gene is there, with our decisions, we can help control it. For instance, you may be predisposed to alcohol. That runs in your family. You feel a natural tendency toward that. Research shows if you'll stay out of that environment, not give in to the temptation, you can literally deactivate that gene. In the same way, God has already put in your DNA these destiny genes. He has amazing things waiting to open up. But if you go around with the wrong attitude, in the wrong environment, thinking that it's never going to happen, even though those genes are in you, you are deactivating them. You're turning them off. The way you turn on your destiny genes is to get in a good environment. Surround yourself with people of faith, people of joy, people of victory. You know what's happening every time you come to Lakewood? Every time you watch and listen, your destiny genes are beginning to activate. When you hear me tell you each week that you're strong, talented, prosperous, blessed, anointed, that you can do all things through Christ, that you're more than a conqueror, that you are a history maker, a world changer, one of a kind, a masterpiece. I'm not just saying that to make you feel good. I'm calling out your seeds of greatness. I'm speaking to those destiny genes put in you by your Creator, activating what's already in your DNA. I'm helping us to turn off the defeat genes. We're turning on the victory genes. We're turning off the lack, poverty, not enough genes. We're turning on the abundance, overflow, more than enough genes. We're turning off the self-pity, I've been hurt too badly genes. We're turning on the beauty for ashes genes, the favor genes, the something good is going to happen to us genes. Here's my point. The external environment will impact the internal gene. That's why you can't hang out your whole life with people who are negative and critical and expect your destiny genes to activate. If you have people always pushing you down, telling you what you can't become, and you'll never get out of debt, you'll never break that addiction, you'll never get well, you won't reach your highest potential. You're turning the gene off. You have to get in an environment of faith so those destiny genes can activate. When Mary, the mother of Christ, was pregnant with Jesus, she went to visit her cousin Elizabeth, who was pregnant with John the Baptist. When Elizabeth answered the door and saw Mary, the scripture says the baby leaped in Elizabeth's womb. Something came alive on the inside. When you get around people who are pregnant with destiny, people who are full of vision, excellence, integrity, the destiny genes in them will help activate the destiny genes in you. Get around people who make your baby leap, not people who put your baby to sleep. Sometimes we don't want to hurt people's feelings, and Joel, I know they're not good for me. They pull me down, they're negative. But Joel, we've been eating lunch together every day for the last 30 years at the office. I don't want to rock the boat. Listen, that boat's already sinking. You need to see it in a new light. That is deactivating your destiny genes. That is turning off the amazing future God has in store. Life is too short. Your destiny too great. Your assignment too important to spend it with people that always pull you down. It's not only affecting you, it's affecting the next generation. God is counting on you to set a new standard, to raise the bar. Make sure you surround yourself with people of faith, hope, and victory. And I understand we all have to be around people that are negative and critical. God will give us the grace for that. Talking about when you do have a choice. All through the day, feed your spirit, your mind with good things. Put on uplifting music. Not something that's going to drag you down, something that's going to inspire you and build you up. Got in my car one time, turned on the radio, and The first song I heard said, "You're no good, you're no good, you're no good." That already made me depressed. Then she sang, "Baby, you're no good." Flipped over to another station, I heard that song, "Shake it off, shake it off, shake it off." At your house, at the office, put up scripture verses, inspirational sayings, things that motivate you. Driving to work now. If you have it, you can turn on Sirius XM 128. Hear these messages all the time. Or you can download these podcasts on iTunes every week free of charge. Listen to it whenever you want. Bottom line, the environment you're creating around you is either activating or deactivating your destiny genes. This is what my father had to do. He grew up very poor. His parents were cotton farmers. They lost everything during the Great Depression. They were good people, hardworking, kind people, but they were very limited in their thinking. At 17 years of age, my father gave his life to Christ, the first one in the family. God called him to be a minister. He didn't have any training, any experience, any money. All the odds said he would have to stay there and pick cotton the rest of his life, never amount to anything. But my father could feel his destiny stirring, saying, "No, you were made for more. This is not your lot in life." When most people saw my father back then, they saw a poor country boy with no future. What they couldn't see is before my father was formed in his mother's womb, before he ever showed up on planet Earth, the Most High God locked up in his destiny a minister who would touch the world. Those destiny genes had already been set: talent, favor, good breaks, the right people. When he felt his destiny pulling him, he did something critical to seeing those genes being activated. He didn't stay in that limited environment. He loved his family, of course. He always treated them with respect. But his parents told him all he knew how to do was pick cotton. He could never become a minister. If he would have stayed in that environment and let those negative words take root, even though God had put destiny genes that would take him to a new level, they would have stayed dormant, locked up in his DNA. Maybe like my father, because of a limited environment, people pushing you down, wrong thinking, your destiny genes are still locked up in your DNA. The good news is those genes are still alive. It's not too late to be activated. You can still become who you were created to be. One good break can make up for all the bad breaks. One moment of favor can thrust you to a new level. Do your part. Get in the right environment, not only physically, but in your mind. Put on a new attitude. Start dwelling on thoughts of faith, favor, hope, victory, vision. There are destiny genes in you that have not yet opened up. They're still waiting to be activated. A friend of mine told a story about her mother-in-law. When she was a little girl, this mother-in-law always had a desire to sing. Her dream was to one day be in the opera. She was extremely talented. Junior high and high school, she always played the lead role in the plays. But when it came time to go to college, her parents told her that she would never make a living as an opera singer and she needed to get a normal degree. She got her business degree, went on to have a successful career working with a company. But deep down, she always regretted not following that dream of singing. She could still feel her destiny pulling her toward that. She was close to 90 years old. Her husband had died, and she moved into a senior's home. Her mind wasn't quite as clear and sharp as it used to be, and something interesting happened. Every day in that senior's home, she would stand up in front of all the people, uninhibited, and sing the most beautiful opera you could ever imagine. She sounded like an angel. People started coming from all over to hear this 90-year-old woman sing. That was a destiny gene locked up in her DNA. For nearly 90 years, it had laid there dormant, still waiting to be activated. Friends, there are destiny genes locked up in you right now. My challenge today, don't die with the music still in you. Don't let people talk you out of it. Like my father, don't let circumstances convince you that it's never going to happen. God has already pre-programmed it. He has the final say. A few months ago, it had been cloudy in Houston for a long time. Gray, gloomy, overcast. Every morning when I woke up, I thought surely it's going to be sunny today. I looked outside eagerly, but nothing had changed. I watched the weather reports on the news, but as far out as they predicted, it was all cloudy. Checked the 10-day report on my phone. Nothing had changed. No end in sight. It had been that way so long, people started asking the question, when are we ever going to see the sun again? And sometimes it can be that way in life. It gets cloudy in our health, cloudy in our finances, cloudy in a relationship. Day after day goes by, it doesn't look like it's ever going to change. A gentleman told recently how he struggled with an addiction since high school. Those dark clouds rolled in. Now 30 years later, he's still dealing with it. Hasn't seen the sun. And when it's been dark for a long time, it's easy to get discouraged and think that it's never going to change. But one morning, I was in my office looking out the window. It was another gray, gloomy day, like it had been again and again. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the clouds broke open and this bright ray of sunlight came shining down. It looked like a postcard. It was so beautiful, the sun shining through the trees, the ground was glistening. I sat there and took it all in. It was such a welcome sight. I could feel my spirits lifting. And in a few minutes, as I watched, all the clouds dissipated. They didn't blow away, they just went away, like fog burning off. I heard these two words in my spirit, unexpected sunshine. Maybe it's been cloudy in your life for a long time. Those clouds of loneliness don't look like they'll ever leave. You don't think you'd ever meet the right person. But can I tell you, God has unexpected sunshine. He's already lined up the person of your dreams. Just a matter of time before those clouds open up. The medical report may say you'll never get well. Just learn to live with it. It's cloudy in your health. Stay encouraged. Unexpected sunshine is coming your way. Or those clouds of struggle, lack, can't get ahead, may have followed you around for years. You could easily accept mediocrity, think you've reached your limits. No, get ready for unexpected sunshine. One touch of God's favor can thrust you to the next level. It may be overcast right now, gloomy in some area of your life. The good news is those clouds don't stop our God. He controls the clouds. In a split second, He can cause them to open up. Suddenly you get well. Suddenly you meet the right person. Suddenly you're out of debt. Don't be discouraged by the clouds. They're only temporary. It was cloudy in our life in 1981 when my mother was diagnosed with terminal liver cancer. Those clouds came storming in. Everywhere we looked, it was dark, gloomy, depressing. The forecast said a few weeks to live. But people don't have the final say, God does. He said, I have unexpected sunshine. I'm going to cause those clouds to open up, shine down healing, shine down restoration. That's what happened in my mother's life. Unexpectedly, the sun came out. 34 years later, she's still healthy and whole. But when it's cloudy, every voice will tell you, it's never going to change. You'll always be addicted, always be discouraged, always struggle in your career. Don't believe those lies. God is saying, I have unexpected sunshine coming your way. It's going to be unusual, out of the ordinary, and it's going to happen suddenly. Those clouds are going to break open. You're going to see rays of healing, rays of favor, rays of promotion. Now do your part and get in agreement with God. Start acting like it's going to happen, thinking like it's going to happen, talking like it's going to happen. No more, I'll never get well, Joel. I've had this too long. No, God is restoring health back into me. The number of my days He will fulfill. No more, I never get any good breaks. I'll never accomplish my dreams. No, I have the favor of God. Blessings are chasing me down. I'm the head and not the tail. No more, this problem is too big. I don't see a way out. No, it may be big, but I know my God is bigger. May be a little cloudy right now, but I know a secret. Unexpected sunshine is coming my way. Jesus said in Matthew 6:22, a pure eye lets sunshine into your soul. When you have this attitude of faith, positive, hopeful, expecting good things, that pure eye is letting sunshine into your life. But when we go around stressed out, worried, thinking it's never going to change, that's stopping the sun. It's causing more clouds to roll in, more defeat, more mediocrity. You have to start letting some sun shine into your life. It doesn't start with God, it starts with us. Instead of being discouraged by the dark clouds, our attitude should be, any moment this can change. Healing is coming. Promotion is coming. The right person is coming. Breakthroughs are coming. If you want to see the clouds open up, you have to have this expectancy. Shake off the negativity. Quit talking about what's not working out. Turn it around. God, I know you're in control of these clouds. They didn't come to stay, they came to pass. I believe at any moment I'm going to see that unexpected sunshine. A friend of mine had a supervisor at work that was very condescending and hard to get along with. Nobody liked the man. This supervisor had been a constant source of frustration year after year. He was a young man. He could have easily been there for another 20 or 30 years. And my friend had a good attitude. He was determined to be his best right where he was. But in the back of his mind, he thought, this is going to be a pain to have to put up with this man the rest of my life. One morning, he came to work. Everything seemed like normal. But the management called a special staff meeting. And they told how this supervisor's wife had been transferred to another state. And just without any warning, he resigned and was no longer with the company. Half of the staff fell down on their knees, began to thank God. What was that? Unexpected sunshine. He didn't see it coming. The forecast was cloudy. All the reports said this problem is permanent. But God controls the universe. He knows how to suddenly change things. He can suddenly move the wrong people out. He can suddenly open doors you never dreamed would open. That's why you can't just go by what you see. What you see is temporary. Like those weather forecasts, it may tell you it's going to be the same month after month, year after year, gloomy, depressing. It's never going to change. In the natural, that may be true. But the good news is we serve a supernatural God. On your own, you may be stuck, but you're not on your own. The creator of the universe, the God who spoke worlds into existence, has you in the palm of his hand. He's directing your steps. He controls the clouds. He controls the winds. He doesn't have to wait for the weather to get better. Doesn't have to wait for the medical report to improve. Doesn't have to wait for the situation to turn around. No, when it's your time for promotion, for healing, for abundance, all the forces of darkness cannot stop our God. Don't get discouraged and give up on what you're believing for. You need to get ready. Those clouds are about to open up. The sun is about to break through. Just like I saw in my office that day, in 15 minutes, all the clouds went out of the sky, totally cleared up. God knows how to make what should have taken years happen in a fraction of the time. You're going to look up and say like my friend, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see my supervisor resigning that quickly. I didn't see my health improving this fast. I didn't see that new house on the radar. I didn't see that favor coming. A gentleman that's attended Lakewood for many years had a major stroke. He was told by the medical professionals that he would probably never be able to walk or talk again. And even if he did relearn how to do it, it would take years of rehabilitation. It looked cloudy. The forecast was very depressing. But this man understood this principle that God has unexpected sunshine. He didn't sit around in self-pity. He knew he was a victor, not a victim. He went to therapy every day. He amazed the therapist. They had never seen anyone like him. 16 months after he had the stroke, he came back to Lakewood for the first time. He came back not in a wheelchair, not on a walker. He walked in on his own 2 feet. He was told that he would never be able to lift this left arm. But when I saw him in the lobby and our eyes met, he lifted that arm, both arms raised in the air, raised in victory. I'll never forget that image. He wasn't disabled. He wasn't limping. What should have taken years, God made happen in a fraction of the time. Unexpected sunshine. The scripture puts it this way: when darkness overtakes the righteous, light will come bursting in. Doesn't say it'll trickle in, barely get there, hopefully make it one day. No, suddenly, unexpectedly, it will come bursting in. That means it wasn't on the radar. You didn't see it coming. But God, in His goodness, turned it all around. It may be dark in your life right now, cloudy in some area. You don't see how you'd ever get well, ever get out of debt, ever see the legal situation resolved. Here's the key. You are the righteous. You are a child of the Most High God. You have royal blood flowing through your veins. That means you have a promise from your Creator. When it gets dark, when you could easily be discouraged, when you feel like giving up, God says you need to get ready. Light is about to burst in. Healing is going to burst in. Favor is going to burst in. Vindication, restoration is going to suddenly show up. I talked to a man that knew the Lord as a child, but when he was a teenager, he got off course, started running with the wrong crowd. He was living a very violent life, selling drugs, involved in crime. He was a disaster waiting to happen. Most of his life, he was high. Surely God wouldn't have anything to do with him. It was his own fault. He brought the trouble on himself. But God is so merciful. Even though he was making poor choices, even though he turned away from God, God didn't turn away from him. God still saw him as the righteous. In the midst of all that trouble, God said, that's my son. He belongs to me. He's overcome by darkness, so my light is about to come bursting in. He was in a hotel room, been there for 4 days doing drugs with some very violent people. Something happened to where he couldn't make his payment. They became very angry and were about to take his life. He ran and barricaded himself in the bathroom. High on drugs, he said, this is it. God, I'm sorry, my life is over. In a few minutes, the door was violently kicked in. He braced himself, expecting the worst. When he looked up, it wasn't who he thought. It was a group of young people from Teen Challenge. He had been involved with that ministry as a teenager. Now, years later, they heard that he was in trouble. Somehow they found him in the middle of the night in this drug-infested, run-down hotel. Just in the nick of time, they burst in there like Navy SEALs. The other people thought they were the police and took off running. They picked him up off the ground, said, God sent us here to rescue you because you belong to Him. That night was a turning point in his life. He never did another drug. Got out of that violent lifestyle. Today he goes around to schools and churches telling people what God has done for him. Maybe like this young man, you have a son, a daughter, a family member that's off course, running with the wrong crowd. They've been overcome by darkness. You could easily be discouraged, but stay in faith. Your child belongs to God. There's nothing that can snatch them out of His hand. They may be in darkness, but light is coming. Deliverance is coming. Freedom is coming. God is not judging them by where they are right now. God is not abandoning them because they turned their back. God still sees them as the righteous. Light is still about to burst in. Or maybe you've made poor choices. You don't think you could expect anything good. Joel, God would never help me. You don't know the life that I've lived. It doesn't say God will help the righteous as long as you don't make any mistakes. Have a new perspective. You belong to God. You are His child. Now you have to have this attitude, God, I made this mess. I brought this trouble on myself, but I know you're a God of mercy. I believe you still have unexpected sunshine coming my way. In other words, I'm struggling with this addiction, but I believe deliverance is on the way. Restoration, vindication is going to suddenly show up. Numbers chapter 17, there had been a power struggle over who would become the next priest. The people were questioning Moses' authority. God told Moses he was going to show them who the priest should be. And God instructed Moses to take the staffs, the walking sticks from the leaders of each of the tribes of Israel. He placed these walking sticks in a tent next to the Ark of the Covenant. That's where God lived back there. And these staffs were just old, dried up, dead pieces of wood. Just basically a stick that they had used for years. The next morning, the staff of Aaron had sprouted branches, grown leaves, and even produced almonds. Here, this old piece of dead wood was now blooming and blossoming. They knew Aaron was supposed to be the priest. One lesson we can learn from this story is that God can change things overnight. He can take a situation that should take years to resolve and accelerate it. You may think it's going to take years to get well, years to get out of debt, years to accomplish your dreams. God knows how to speed it up. One good break, one phone call, one idea, suddenly, unexpectedly, overnight, God can change it. Now, don't believe the lies that it's never going to get better. Joel, my marriage situation, it looks dead. My dreams, my financial situation, it all looks dead. That's okay. God took a stick that had been dead for years and caused it to produce new fruit. What you think is dead, God is saying, I can still cause it to bloom, to blossom. I can breathe new life in it. You can still become who you were created to be. You can still overcome that obstacle. You can still accomplish your dreams. I received a letter from a lady that had been married for 47 years, but because of some hurtful things in the relationship, she and her husband had recently gotten a divorce. And somebody invited her to Lakewood. Her ex-husband heard and asked if he could come. The Saturday night before the service, they had a big disagreement on the phone. Nothing had changed. Sunday morning, he went and picked her up, and on the way over in the car, they had another major argument. She was so upset, she almost got out and wouldn't come in.